She got booed by an entire arena, and then made them fall in love with her anyway. This is the story the WNBA does not want you to see. Welcome back to WNBA Analysis. If you thought the biggest star in this league was Paige, not anymore. If you thought it was Aya, get real. If you thought it was Angel once upon a time, maybe. But right now, nobody in the WNBA is a bigger star than Sophie Cunningham. And by the end of this video you are going to understand exactly why, and why the league office is not thrilled about it. Stick around because what happened in Portland changes the entire conversation. Sophie Cunningham just passed Paige Bueckers in Instagram followers. Let that sink in for a second. A role player who averages 9 points a game now has more social pull than the most hyped college prospect this country has seen since Caitlin Clark came onto the scene. And we are not talking about some marginal gap either. Cunningham hit 3.2 million followers with fewer total posts than Bueckers' 3.1 million. If you think that's just a social media stat, you are missing the bigger picture. Because what went down in Portland on May 15, 2024 proves something the WNBA establishment has been quietly trying to ignore. Sophie Cunningham has become the second biggest star in this league, and she got there by refusing to play by anybody's rules but her own. We should have known Sophie was in for a heater the moment she stepped off the bus. She showed up to Portland's Moda Center wearing bright yellow Big Bird pants. Loud, bold, impossible to miss. Not a subtle pre-game fit. Not something built to blend into the background. This was a statement before she'd even touched the ball. And here's what you need to understand about that choice. Sophie knew exactly what she was walking into. The Fever's May 15th road game in Portland wasn't just another game on the schedule. This was the belly of the beast. A building packed with fans who had been waiting weeks for the chance to boo her in person. Portland has become ground zero for a very specific vocal segment of the WNBA fan base. The kind who show up organized, who coordinate online, who've appointed themselves the judges of which players deserve support and which ones deserve contempt. Sophie has been near the top of that list since late April, when comments she made were read by a lot of fans as siding with more traditional values and pushing back on some of the league's social messaging. Reportedly, flags were banned inside the arena for this game. And yet, somehow, someway, certain flags made it in anyway. Shocking. Truly shocking. Sophie checks into the game. The boos come down immediately, not polite disagreement, not a little grumbling, full-throated, sustained booing from a huge chunk of the crowd. And this is where most players would shrink. Most players try to disappear into the background, wait for the moment to pass, avoid giving the crowd any more fuel. Sophie does the exact opposite. First possession after check-in, 17 seconds of game time. Kelsey Mitchell drives, kicks it out to the corner, and there's Cunningham. No hesitation, no second-guessing. Catch and shoot in one motion. Splash. 3 points. And then she turns straight to the booing crowd and lets them know about it. No apology. No backing down. Pure defiance, live on broadcast for the entire arena to see. She heads to the free throw line and gets booed there too. It doesn't slow her down. Second quarter, she gets fouled shooting a three, walks to the line with the boos intensifying, you can hear it clearly on the broadcast, and calmly sinks all 3 free throws without a flicker of emotion. Then she gets back on defense, jumps a passing lane, steals the ball, takes it coast to coast herself, and finishes through contact for the and one. Third quarter is where it gets really interesting. Indiana's up 6, Portland is making a push, and the crowd is fully locked in now. They want to see her rattled. They want a crack in the armor. Aaliyah Boston gets trapped in the post, kicks it out to the wing, Cunningham catches it, one dribble, pulls up from 23 feet and buries it. She turns to the crowd again. The boos get louder, but listen closely and you can hear something else mixed in now, reluctant respect. Even the people who came to hate her are starting to recognize what they're watching. She finished the night with 14 points on 5 of 8 shooting, including 4 of 6 from 3, in a hostile road environment, getting booed every single time she touched the basketball. That's 62% from the field and 67% from 3. Those aren't just good numbers under normal circumstances. Those are elite efficiency numbers under maximum, sustained pressure. Watching an entire arena boo her and just answering with 3 after 3 after 3, it's genuinely hard not to root for someone doing that. You want to get behind people who stand for something whether you agree with them or not, and that's exactly what a lot of fans are responding to here. But it's what happened after the final buzzer that really gets you. Sophie spotted a young fan in the stands, a little girl wearing a Caitlin Clark jersey, there with her mom, clearly Fever supporters who'd made the trip to Portland just to watch this game. Sophie took off one of her game-worn shoes and handed it straight to the kid. Watch the mom's reaction in that clip. She doesn't just get a little emotional, she's in full tears. And you might think that's an overreaction to a sneaker. But that mom understands something a lot of people are missing. Her daughter just watched a grown woman get booed by thousands of strangers, refuse to back down, perform at an elite level under that pressure, and then turn around and show pure kindness the second the game ended. That's not just a basketball moment. That's a lesson about conviction and grace that a little girl is going to carry with her. The little girl is overjoyed, completely overwhelmed. Sophie snaps a selfie with both of them. The mom can barely hold it together. And here's what makes this moment significant. It wasn't scripted. It wasn't a planned PR stunt coordinated with the front office. It was real. And that's exactly the kind of moment this league should be built around. Credit where it's due. The Indiana Fever's social team actually posted this. They didn't have to. They knew posting it would draw backlash from a certain corner of the fan base. They knew it could be read as taking a side in an ongoing cultural argument. And they posted it anyway. Head coach Stephanie White, on the other hand, folded the second she got asked about the controversy directly. Vague talk about respecting everyone's perspective, redirecting to basketball, careful not to take any real position on whether fans should be targeting one of her own players over personal beliefs. A masterclass in saying a lot of words while committing to absolutely nothing. Meanwhile, Sophie's entire response amounted to "I said what I said." No retraction, no clarification, no softening. Just standing on it. That contrast, the coach's careful political hedging next to the player's flat-out conviction, tells you a lot about why fans have connected with Sophie the way they have. The people booing Sophie Cunningham in Portland represent a very specific, organized slice of WNBA fandom. To be fair, this isn't about all Portland fans or even most of them. It's about a coordinated group that has decided it's their job to determine which players earn support and which ones get run out of the building. And Sophie not letting any of it change how she plays only adds fuel to why more and more fans are choosing to get behind her. Here's what that follower count actually tells us, because it's not just a vanity number. Social following in this era is a direct measure of cultural reach and marketability. When Sophie passes the most hyped incoming prospect since Caitlin Clark in followers, that means brands are noticing. That means casual fans, the ones who don't follow every roster move, are actively seeking her out. That means she's driving conversation and engagement at a level almost nobody else in this league is hitting right now. Paige Bueckers was supposed to be the next face of the league, magazine covers since her freshman year at UConn, major deals before she'd played a single WNBA minute. The league has poured resources into her profile for years. And Sophie Cunningham, a second-round pick out of Missouri who was never projected to be more than a 3-and-D role player, just passed her in reach. That's not luck. That's what happens when someone becomes must-watch television. Not because the league is telling you to care, but because she's giving people an actual reason to. Now let's talk about where this leaves the league, because this is where it gets complicated. For years, the WNBA has been wrestling with a real tension. On one side, they need to grow the audience and pull in casual fans who just want good basketball and don't necessarily follow every social conversation around the league. On the other side, the league has spent years building its brand around being outspoken and socially engaged. Those two goals aren't automatically at odds, but they create real friction when it comes to how much room individual players get to just be themselves. Sophie Cunningham is a genuine test case for that tension. Can a player who doesn't fit the league's preferred mold still thrive? Can someone who expresses more traditional values still land endorsements, still get real media coverage, still become a legitimate fan favorite? Based on the last month, the answer looks like yes, and that appears to be making some people in the league office uncomfortable, because if Sophie can build this kind of following while refusing to conform to the expected script, it raises real questions about sponsor relationships, media partnerships, and the league's carefully built brand identity. Nobody has the answers to those questions yet. But Sophie is forcing the conversation every single time she steps on the floor. The Portland game will likely be remembered as a turning point, not just for her career but for how the league thinks about player expression going forward. She walked into a hostile building, got booed relentlessly, and responded with arguably her best performance of the season. She got criticized by fans and media who wanted an apology or at least some silence. Instead, she got louder, more visible, more herself. And the fans responded. Not all of them. Not even most of them. But enough to push her past Bueckers and followers. Enough to make her jersey one of the top sellers in the league. Enough to turn Fever road games into events people tune in for specifically to see how she'll respond to whatever the crowd throws at her next. That little girl who walked away with Sophie's shoe is going to remember that night for the rest of her life. She's going to remember that when the whole building was against Sophie, When it would have been so much easier to just shrink and blend in, Sophie stood there, played her game, and still found room for kindness right after. That's the kind of moment marketing budgets can't manufacture. The league is at a real crossroads here. They can keep trying to enforce one version of what a WNBA player should say and believe, and keep pushing back against anyone who steps outside those lines. Or they can actually embrace the range of backgrounds and perspectives that already exist inside their own locker rooms, trust that fans are smart enough to handle disagreement, and focus on promoting great basketball regardless of who's playing it. Sophie's rise suggests there's a real appetite for that second path. There are fans out there who felt like they weren't welcome in this league because their values didn't match the messaging, and Sophie's success is quietly telling them they don't have to agree with every league talking point to appreciate elite competitiveness. So where does this go from here? Sophie hasn't sat down for a big podcast or a tell-all interview to explain herself. She hasn't needed to. She's just kept playing and letting the performance speak. But the playoffs are coming, and when Indiana makes its push, when Sophie hits another big shot on an even bigger stage, this only gets louder. The real question is whether the league is ready for a star who doesn't fit the mold they built, whether they can separate basketball excellence from political alignment, because Sophie Cunningham is not going anywhere. She's only getting more confident, more popular, and more certain of exactly who she is. The numbers don't lie. Right now, Sophie Cunningham is the second biggest star in the WNBA behind only Caitlin Clark, and she got there by being unapologetically herself. That's not just a basketball story anymore. That's a story about conviction, and about what happens when someone refuses to back down, no matter how loud the room gets. So next time Sophie checks into a game, pay attention. Watch how she carries herself. Watch how she answers adversity. Because you're watching something rare in professional sports, a genuine star that nobody planned for and nobody controls. If this story moved you even a little, if you believe athletes like Sophie deserve to be seen and heard, not silenced, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button. It genuinely means the world to this channel, and it's the only reason we get to keep telling stories like hers. Drop a comment and tell me what you think. Hit like if you're rocking with Sophie, and I'll see you in the next one. WNBA Analysis.